Hello, and welcome once again to the Barbarian Breakdown. This time, episode 6, where we're going to be going through EGL Open Series Split 3. When we talk about both what has happened in both week 3 and 4, and then discussing a little bit at the end some changes that have been made going into week 5. In week 3, we had a repeat of week 2's team numbers. 13 teams turned up again. Mostly the usual suspects, a couple of new additions and a couple of teams missing. XS continue with their sort of unbeaten streak at this point. It's not sort of, it is an unbeaten streak at this point. 4 continuous weeks. They've won them all so far and looking pretty undefeatable. The other finalists in both weeks was a little bit different. Week 3 saw XS had to defeat the new form Bum Bum Tam Tam. Basically the highly rated squad, but with the addition of Hydrone replacing Marsh. I'm sure we expect great things from this team in the future if they choose to stick, that is. In the semi-finals in week 3, we saw Class 1A with their normal and dependable roster we've learned to fall in love with get taken out by Axis 2-0. And the other semi-final was the week 2 finalist Phantom T with their regular roster, no change there. The quarters were very diverse with 2 French teams, 1 Italian team and 1 UK based. Broquettes consisting of Chris RN, Blade YB, Cytix and Sly Predator lost to Phantom T in the quarters after first taking out myself, dead arse bro. Bum Bum Tam Tam defeated Les Pepitits, I never know really how to pronounce that right, which is a Bolax, Cracks, Xenocides and Aero W Sky. Class 1A took out Italian Washed, which consisted of Crisis, Mantis, Ryuza, and Kid V Astro. Welcome back to the scene, Crisis. I remember after the Barbarian League he said he may be done with comp, but it's nice to see him back in the mix and competing again. The last quarter final being played week 3 was between XS and Outsiders, who had the misfortune of running into them again. Obviously, speaking of Outsiders, 9th seed as they are. They stayed with the same team week 2 and 3. Tactics, Cursor, Saitama and Arbsy. Unfortunately, they didn't play in EGL week 4. Speaking of didn't play in week 4, myself included, we only had 8 teams signed up. We have had an EGL announcement made, sort of now. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the video and what changes have been made going forward. As mentioned, Exis won yet again in week 4. This time they were up against Phantom T in the final. We were missing Breaker's team in week 3, but they played in week 4, going out against Excess in the semis. The roster in Fossils and a Frenchman this week was Breaker, Sarkis, Zul and Slazing. So changes being made, but again, keep the grind, Breaker and Co, Fossils and a Frenchman, and hopefully stick together, get it going. And that's a strong roster. It's a very strong roster. The other semi-final was Phantom T versus Broquettes, which was obviously again Chris RN, Blade YB, Cytex and Sly Predator. They took out Espanita team in round 1, consisting of Hortons, the Breeks, Zutatives and Ascens. Bum Bum Tam Tam, who we discussed earlier, sort of like the old highly rated squad, got disqualified when a member of the team's game uninstalled itself and then obviously not allowed to play with the replacement or substitute as per the usual rules. We've seen this happen before. Teams wanting to get subs or try to play with the sub and then being disqualified because it is against the rules. You have to sign up with your team. The last 2 teams playing were Italian Washed with Crisis, Mantis, Hagaromo and Marco Caleb. So immediately some changes being made on that Italian Washed roster. And Quarry with Argod Unil, Synetics, OnlyFunds and Broly. So that's the rundown basically of what's happened in 3 of 4 very quickly, sort of getting up to date there. Now the numbers are deteriorating, aren't they? We've went 15, 13, 13, down to 8. EGL have brought in some changes via speaking to their usual little group and some polls and tweets being put out asking the community's opinion, sort of getting a general consensus and then going from there, hopefully to see these changes rectify the scene and encourage teams and players to compete again. It was announced that the EGL Open Series Split 3 Week 5 and onwards will be best of 3 until the semi-finals, and then best of 5 from the semi-finals onwards to semi-finals and final. The best of 3 format has been changed. It will now be execution, escalation and execution, while best of 5 format will stay the same: escalation, execution, control, escalation, execution. hopefully these changes will see growth, and we'll see some players return across the scene. I suppose only time will tell. It would be nice for it to get back on the growth again. I think control has been a major issue, one of the major things. And speaking among the community, the players I know and sort of paying attention, a lot of teams don't like control. There's a few that do. There's a few that campaign for it sort of quite actively. And then there's a group which seems larger, and you would imagine from these decisions that have been made, obviously condemning the mode or complaining about the mode. So we're still going to see it in best of 5 in the mid slot there in game 3, and it's gone from best of 3. I personally like these choices. Going to see how it is. I'll be there this Sunday. Last Sunday I wasn't. I just couldn't be asked to be forced to play control really. I still at this point would prefer teams to be able to pick their game modes and do a pick and ban process that way, because I think that way that caters to everyone. The control teams can pick control, the escalation execution teams, they're going to try and avoid control, and you're going to have, in those situations, you're going to have control played on the first 2 maps with execution or escalation, and the tiebreaker being one of the others. So it's another way of doing it, but we'll have to see what happens. As I say, we just hope that these changes will see growth, people come back, and we'll just see what happens. I'll see you next time, and as always guys, keep it classy.